Vanakkam and welcome to Inia TV. Kids these days. This is the name of this video series, and we're going to look at kids who have excelled all along their school and in college as well. About a decade ago, going to college was just to get educated and find a job. But that's not the case these days. Kids are in sports, in their academia, music, almost everywhere. We are going to pick kids who have excelled in all these levels and talk to them and learn what they have learned and what they can share. Today, we're going to talk to Kushal Kadakia from Clear Lake, Texas, and learn more about his experience. Tell us about yourself.
Absolutely. So my name is Kushal. I grew up in Houston, Texas, and I just graduated from Duke University, where I had studied biology and public policy. I was fortunate this past fall to win the Rhodes Scholarship, so I'll be attending the University of Oxford in England for the next 2 years, pursuing a master's in global health before matriculating to Harvard for medical school.
Great. And talking about medical school, has that been your goal all through your life?
That's a great question. Actually, my parents are accountants, so there never was any sort of pressure to follow in any footsteps because they had pursued medicine. But from a very early age, I was very interested in science and math, and also wanted to pursue a career that could channel the work I was doing in service to my community. And so I think around middle school, I became interested in a career in medicine. But if you remember back during that time was also when we had these big national debates about healthcare and what it meant to have access to healthcare and access to insurance through the Affordable Care Act. And so I realized, even though I was very interested in a career in science and medicine, that there was so much more to medicine than just doing lab work or just doing patient work. And so I had this really core interest in healthcare and being in service to others, but then started to think about it in a more of a macro sense about what are the larger social factors that maybe affect someone's healthcare and their outcomes. I think and that really guided my school, and I think some things that really drew me to Duke were the fact that Duke actually has an undergraduate public policy school, which is really rare and something that I was very interested in studying in a greater detail. Another advantage of Duke is that you have all of the graduate schools are just a 5-minute walk away from the undergraduate campus. And I really appreciated that because it meant as an undergraduate, I was able to develop mentors in the law school, the medical school, and the business school. And the third thing that drew me to Duke was the fact that for them, it's not learning that's theoretical, it's learning that's applied. And if you look at Duke's campus, there's actually a road called Science Drive, and it literally intersects a road called Research Drive. And to me, it's a good metaphor for how the things we learn in the classroom at Duke are meant to be in service to society.
And you mentioned that you wanted to do medicine, you went to Duke. Did that ever change after being through your undergraduate program? Did you ever think, oh, medicine is not my line, I want to do something else, or did you stay focused?
Well, I was certainly broadly interested in healthcare, but I think the way I wanted to approach it certainly went back and forth. So, I entered thinking maybe it'd be medicine. In the beginning, I thought maybe it'd be through science by doing research in a basic science lab. Later, as I became more and more interested in policy and I did internships in the governor's office and doing a lot of policy research, I wondered if maybe getting a PhD or some sort of legal training would be helpful. But ultimately, I decided, there are many different ways to impact the world, and your educational skills can help you do so in a very important way. But for me, I think the common denominator in medicine is service to someone else. And I knew that I wanted to keep myself proximate to suffering and proximate to communities that are in need, which is why I found having that experience was something I wanted to pursue further in education.
Well, all of us know that Duke is not just any college or any university. It's the top in the nation, maybe in the world as well. How did your school days, your high school or middle school, how did that prepare you to excel at Duke?
Yeah, I think one thing about Duke that was really formative was learning how diverse everyone's backgrounds were, right? I would be in a classroom where kids were from top East Coast private schools to kids who were from rural America and maybe the first person in their community to ever go to Duke. For me, I was in public schools in Texas, in Houston, Texas all my life, and I really appreciated growing up in public schools because it exposed me to a large diversity of people and a large diversity of communities. But also I had a good continuity in my education or the system I had and really good teachers and support systems. And certainly while maybe public schools don't have access to all of the resources, what I think they do is give you a good value set about the importance of education and learning how to work hard And those are the kinds of portable skills that really helped me succeed in college.
Would there be any tips for the current high schoolers that, hey, watch out, or any advice that you can give to them?
Absolutely. I think if I could go back to high school today, what I would say to students is, first, remember that the learning you do doesn't just happen in the classroom. Sometimes your extracurriculars are just as important as the work that you'll do in your English class or math class. And the reason is, those are the kinds of experiences where you can develop other skills like leadership or responsibility that aren't something you can learn through a textbook. The second thing is, I think a lot of times in high school it's difficult to kind of find your passion, in part because, well, everyone's taking the same classes. You don't have as much flexibility. But you shouldn't let what you're learning in school limit your ability to explore what else is out there. Think of your summers not just as a vacation, but as an opportunity to augment what you've learned in the classroom, whether it's trying to do research at a university or doing different summer camps or maybe volunteering. And I think the third thing is to try and find mentors early. These can be people in your community, they can even be teachers, and really spending time to form those relationships might open you up to new possibilities and also help you deepen your education.
Kushal is not just any other graduate that you would see. If you take a look at his awards and accolades that he's gained, you would find them in pages. We're going to just pick a few of them and talk to him about going through your CV, how they came across several awards, scholarship awards, and all those. Let's pick a few of those and tell me which one you value the most and how you geared yourself or prepared yourself to gain those.
Sure. I think the scholarship, and the Truman Scholarship is named after President Harry Truman. I was really fortunate to win the Nation's Living Scholarship my junior year of college. What it does is it looks for students who are interested in a career in public service, but have also demonstrated some expertise or experiences in leadership. And the scholarship provides $30,000 for funding towards any graduate program of your choice, whether it's a master's, a PhD, a JD. But more importantly, it gives you a lifetime community of peers and mentors who are in public service. And famous Truman Scholars include senators like Senator Chris Coons from Delaware, or even Supreme Court justices like Justice Neil Gorsuch. And I would encourage anyone who is interested in a career in public service to think about this. And public service can be many things. It can be something like volunteering in your community, it could be working in the government, it could be doing research at a university. I was interested in the Truman Scholarship after I had a really good public service experience interning in the North Carolina governor's office, where I got to work on some of the reforms they're doing around Medicaid. And it showed me the importance of having people with different skill sets working in government or in public institutions to be able to ensure that people who are very vulnerable or maybe don't have the most resources are able to get that foot they need in the door to get back on the right track. And so I'm really thankful to have had that opportunity and really grateful for mentors who supported me to get there.
Great.
Yeah, so the
and
Rhodes
talk about
Scholarship
your
is the
Rhodes
world's
Scholar.
oldest international graduate
How would you
fellowship.
describe that?
And very simply,
and
what it
got
does
you
is
selected for
provides
that?
funding for students to study at the University of Oxford in England. The Rhodes Scholarship is open to any student across the world, whether you're in a country like India or in the United States. And the application process is actually very simple. It's just one essay and several letters of recommendation. I was interested in applying for it after getting encouragement from several mentors at school, and was interested in doing master's work in global health because I wanted to develop some broader competencies before I went to go do my medical training. And so for me, it was a great way to have a different educational opportunity while also being able to get access to another incredible community of very mission-driven people. The Rhodes Scholarship's mission is to find people who are willing to quote-unquote fight the world's fight. And for me, it really embodies the kind of values I hope to have in my own career and my own life.
All right. What does Duke
given
Faculty
to
Scholar
the Faculty
mean?
University
And,
to
how did
students
you
who have
qualify for
demonstrated
that?
exceptional
so the
promise
Duke
in
Faculty
undergraduate
Award
research
is
and work, and it's the highest award that you can win at the university. In my year, I was very fortunate to be one of 3 students who were selected for, the other 2 being from physics and women's studies. And I think it was a really great way to recognize a lot of the work I'd done in undergraduate research. I was really heavily involved in the basic sciences, both studying cancer metabolism in a radiation oncology lab, as well as in health policy work through the Duke Margolis Center for Health Policy. And I think it's both a testament to the kinds of mentors I had who were really good at giving me responsibility and independent research projects, but also a testament to intellectual curiosity and being able to take risks and work on your own projects and bring them to fruition. And I'm really grateful that they recognize my work in that way.
Glad to hear that. Back in the days when we went to college, it was just about going to college, getting educated, finding a job. We didn't think about all the extracurricular activities or the public service or anything other than our books. But things have changed nowadays. You're a good example for that. How would you say doing everything else around your curricular activities, how is that helping you with what you want to do in your life?
You know, my parents are from India, they're immigrants, and both of them are accountants. And my mom always tells me how when she was in college, you didn't pick a major, you picked a track. And so for them, they picked commerce, and very early on, even when I was still in high school, they knew that they were going to go in this sort of business-oriented field. And I think that made sense for the way the world worked back then. But in today's world, you know, the jobs that we might have in 20 years don't exist today. And that requires not just book learning, but it requires competencies about how you can navigate the world and acquire new information. And so I think the most important thing for students to develop these days is an openness to learn, an openness to be adaptable and change. And I think a really good way to approach that skill set through your education is by trying to be interdisciplinary, to not just focus on one lane or one silo, but think about how do different fields that on the surface seem very disparate actually connect together. So for me, I think at a very simple level, having a double major, one in a science and one in a social science, was a good way to think about the same problem, but from a different lens.
Okay. 10 years from now, how do you see Kushal Kadakia?
Well, certainly for anyone who's watching, they'll know that medicine is a very long training path, and there are many steps like medical school, residency along the way. But I think, you know, long term, what I hope to do with my career is be a practicing physician that not only sees patients on a day-to-day basis, but also is able to think about a population-level approach to healthcare, how we can make service more accessible and more affordable and more effective. For me, I see this happening maybe through being a physician leader in a large healthcare system, or especially through government service, working at a state or federal health department, and thinking about questions like payment and delivery reform.
So, Kushal, what would be your advice to kids, let's say middle schoolers and onwards, who are watching this video?
Yeah. You know, I think if I was to look back and think about myself in your shoes, there are a couple things I would say. The first is, don't look for a formula or a checklist for success, in part because the way success should be defined is by yourself. What are the kinds of impacts you want to have in the world? What is the kind of difference you want to make in your community? And if you are able to set that for yourself, you'll be able to chart a route that's both unique to you, but also one that will bring you fulfillment. A second thing is to think about your education not in terms of educational boxes, like earning a degree or winning an award, but more about experiences that will teach you something different or provide a lasting impact in the way that you view the world. And I've especially found that experiences that dislocate me from where I started off, so being comfortable enough to then make myself uncomfortable, whether it's studying in a different country or taking up a new skill, even if it's maybe something that's not a natural strength from you, will sometimes be the most powerful learning experiences. And the third is, at some point in your career, try to find an opportunity to take leadership. And leadership can take many different forms, but having an opportunity to manage other people, take a project and not just start it, but actually finish it and bring it to completion, having those experiences I found are really critical to building a toolkit for how you create change, whether it's in the classroom or in your community or in the workplace. And I think it's a way to channel some of the classroom and textbook learning that you have and then apply it towards real problems that need real solutions. And so, I mean, I can give study tips or I can give classes that I really like, but I think those are things you can figure out on your own as you go through your educational career. But those larger lessons about how do you take this really precious gift, this really precious responsibility of having access to world-class education and use it for good, hopefully that can help give you a framework for how you can do so.
Thank you very much, Kushal. We appreciate your time and all the advices that you gave to the viewers, and I hope they will be able to learn a lot from you and take you as an inspiration and a role model. Thank you very much.